live from the city of Los Angeles. It's your boy, Dwayne Cofield. It is June 18th, 2024. I know I'm throwing you guys off with the time, but that is irrelevant, man. But it's that time of day. This is the weekly tap in, and I'm tapping in. What's really good, y'all? Hope all is well. Wait for a few more people to chime in. But those who are listening on the replay or you listening on the podcast from wherever it is you are tapping in from, make sure you guys hit the notifications and the subscription button down below so that you do not miss another episode, man. We are working on consistency, baby. That is the key to success, I think, right? We don't know the key to living a long life because we haven't done it yet. So the thing about successful, it's subjective, right? My success may be minimal compared to someone else who's a little bit more loud, right? Or a little bit more prosperous, or a little bit more volume on the dollar side. But success could be whatever it is you make it. This is episode number 24, season 5. This is called internal validation, self-validation, right? The things that matter internally. All right, how are we validating ourselves? Because what happens is a lot of times where our misery is derived from or where it comes from is by looking for others to validate us, right? We're always looking for someone else to give us validation. Hey, man, hey, what do you think of, right? And where do we get that from? Where does that stem from? Well, I'll just use myself as an example. Most of my stuff usually stems from a parental situation, right? If you're usually looking to your parent to try to give you some type of validation that you're doing the right thing as a child, that you're acting a correct way, kind of what they call classical conditioning in consumer behavior. Because I'll be talking about the same subject in about an hour and a half as well, right? Because we're talking about motivation and why we do things, right? Same topics. What is the motivation behind why we buy, right? What is the motivation behind why we go to certain concerts? Or what is the motivation behind why we put our kids in sports? And you start to think about that. Why do we do these things? Why do we put rims in our car? Why do we put music in our cars? Why do we buy the fancy car? Why do we buy the loud color car? Right? A lot of times it's for validation, right? We want people to see us. Why do we buy jewelry and all this stuff? Right? It's usually for validation for people to see us. Can you see me? With the music and all that stuff. I remember when I had all the music in my car, it was can you see me? Can you see me? In class, we do that. And I'll speak for black folks. As black folks, we're often overlooked, right? Nobody sees us. Nobody pays attention to us. So oftentimes nobody acknowledges us our entire lives. So when we do get some type of monetary compensation or some type of money coming in, we usually flaunt it. You'll know that we got it. Why? Because nobody's seen us before. And I think, when we look at just why some people trip and some people don't, it's for different reasons, right? So when you look at it, you say, okay, well, some people say, I don't care about that. I don't want to be seen. Well, I mean, going through life and you saying no one acknowledges you ever, that's a rough one. So we're constantly doing things to be acknowledged. And we could start from like I said, it starts from our parents, and we go into grade school. We're trying to please our teachers. We're trying to please our classmates to show them that, hey, we're either tough, we're athletic, we're smart. We're trying to please girls to show, we put on our cologne, comb our hairs a certain way. Why? Because we're looking for validation, and we start practicing that external or seeking external validation from a really young age, and it's dangerous. And I mean, we're at this point now. Granted, we can't do anything about it. It's hard to reverse that, but what we need to try to figure out is how we can start to get that motivation coming from the inside, right? Or what they call intrinsic motivation. How do we build up our intrinsic motivation and where we're doing things because they satisfy us? Because I just saw a video not too long ago about Will Smith, and it talked about happiness, and it was talking about how, and him and Jada kind of go back and forth about this whole happiness thing, about not being able to make each other happy. And when you start looking at it, there's a lot of truth to that, right? Because it's hard for external things to really give you validation, one, but two, to make you really happy. And he said, when you're able to buy whatever you want, and him being that in that example, and I may have spoken on this before, but whenever you're able to buy whatever you want, it becomes not a thing anymore, right? There's no motivation for it. What everything gets old, everything is tarnished, everything has its time, right? So when you start thinking about that, what can make you happy? It has to come from within. It has to be something that's intrinsic. It has to be something that you seek out, right? Something that you can quantify. Because how can someone else quantify your happiness, right? When we talk about trying to validate, how can someone else know your path? How can someone like my son's trying out for quarterback? He wants to try for quarterback, and the coach won't give him any play and anything like that. And I'm telling him, like, don't trip. I said, but why do you want that position? No, because I said it's because it's the notoriety comes with it. You're the man. You're da 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 da. And I told him, I said, well, you got to think about that. You're 10 years old. Do you want to be the man now, or do you want to be the man when you're in your 20s and 30s? Right? Because you can do either one. So kind of putting it in perspective, but some people aren't going to see you. They're not going to see your talent. They're not going to see your grind. They're not going to see your hustle. They're not going to see anything. They're not going to like you because of the way you walk. You don't know what it is. It might be because of your height. It might be for several reasons. But there you just have to understand that there's oftentimes similar like the California at will contract. We can fire you for any and no reason at all. Right. And people can like you or dislike you for if and no reason at all. So you have to understand that. So oftentimes seeking validation can be a dangerous thing because if you validate your worth based on someone else's opinion, and who's an expert on humans, right? Who can speak to your destiny? Who can talk to that? I don't know anybody that can besides God. So why are we looking for external validation from a human being or a human source who may be limited, who may be flawed in the way they think, who may be flawed in the way they were brought up, who may be uneducated, who may be limited on their experiences, who may be limited on their education, and we're going to them for validation, right? When they that we really need to seek validation from, like what? How does their opinion matter? I moved away from flexing for that. I barely talk about any accomplishment because what am I doing it for? Am I doing it to be validated by some people who may not like me? Right? Why am I telling them? Why am I putting it out there like that? And I had to ask myself that a lot. Like it takes you to really separate yourself from your ego to really, really understand where I'm coming from. Because it's hard. Like you want to tell people, you want to show people, hey man, I hit this corner. Oh, hey, I went on this cruise, or hey, I went to, and I'm like, what the hell am I really doing? Right? What am I really doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I really, really? Am I looking for validation from people who won't validate me? They won't validate me no matter what. And some people won't validate you just because. No reason. You won't even see they put it like this. You have maybe let's say on the higher end, you got 200 or 300 friends. You do something special, you may get 2 likes. That's was that less than 2%? Less than 2% of your so that's the thing. And it's I don't think I don't think it's because they just don't like you. I just think it's hard for people to love other successes genuinely. I think people struggle with that. And I'm one. That's what's going on, Stucky Mac. I see you. But that's a hard one to really be joyful when someone else wins. We can talk it all we want to, right? But a real feeling, the feeling like, nah, homie, why not me? That's our first indication, right? Why not me? Right. So when we look at others for that, I mean, it's looking the same way. Well, why not me? How they gonna be happy for you? How they really gonna be happy for you? Right? How they gonna guide you? Because some people are they have jealous tendencies, they have envy popping. How they gonna guide you accordingly, right? Especially if it's undercover and hidden. right? Their comments are going to be different. Their advice, their insight, all these things are going to be slightly off and slightly different. Why? What what's why would they want to? Oh, they my partner. They my okay. They have their own struggles that they're going through though. Why do you need an external hookup when you got the source within you? That's the question. Why do you need someone else to tell you that you're amazing? Do you need someone else to tell you that's a good idea that you came up with? Because like Don Miguel we says in the Four Agreements, man, it's subjective. It depends on how they feel at that point in their life, or that point in the day, or that point in the hour, that point in the minute. It really depends. So do you want to base your destiny, where you're headed, on someone else's opinion that could be affected or somewhat tarnished by whatever it is they're going through at that time? So I'm not going to put my destiny in someone else's hand. It took me a minute to realize that. I had to go through a lot of spiritual awakening over the past couple, I would say probably year or so. And really realize, like, dude, I got to do more self-validation. I have to do more in intrinsic motivation. I have to be motivated because it's important to me internally, right? My milestones are important to me. I don't even have to talk about them. I'll talk about them sometimes on here strictly to motivate you guys. But then I have to be careful with that, because then I'm like, am I bragging? Am I really motivating them? Because motivation usually comes internal, right? What am I really doing? So this is the dilemma that I've been dealing with, right? Like, keep going. Should I keep going? Should I keep talking or not? Right? Because I don't want to come across like, hey man, because this is my discovery, this is my journey, this is my alchemist tale, right? Of discovery and being able to create what I want. And oftentimes there's a lot of failure that comes along with that. So I have to realize that I can't just be transparent when there's victories, but I often have to be transparent when there's failures and losses as well, because I think that those are the stories and the anecdotes that really are going to motivate you, right? It's not going to be, hey man, I won, I did this, da, 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 da. Nah, it's going to be, hey man, it's ugly, but here's what I've done in the process, right? Here's how I kept myself motivated. Here's how I did this and this and that. And my journal's been fantastic for me, because getting back to my intention, what is my intention? That's the whole thing about it. It's like, you have to understand, like, your intention is, what am I really trying to do? So if I'm doing this podcast, okay, so what's my intention? My intention is to help the homies. Well, help the homies. How? Okay, you could talk about what you're doing, or you can motivate, you could talk about these research, you could okay, well, let me try to figure that out. Right. But don't stop, right? Because then you're like, you got that, you got that imposter syndrome. Okay, do I really keep going? Do I all these podcasts you see and all these other podcasters blowing up, and you're like, yeah, but like, man, but all it takes is one, D. Let's get back to that. All it takes is one eyeball, one ear. I don't even need two ears. One eyeball, one ear. That's all it takes. So don't quit yet. Right? That's the reason why I keep talking and keep trying to come back. Consistency. Then I'm looking at it like, okay, so do I need, back to the conversation, do I need external validation? Hey, I love your podcast. Do you want to come take an award? Do I need that? Because that's external validation. Then I'm doing it for all the wrong reasons, right? When I need somebody else to validate why I exist or what my purpose is in life, someone else holding that sounds like a puppet master to me. So it took me a while to realize how much power I had internally and what I can do to motivate myself internally, and realize that I'm not built like everybody else. That is fine that he is succeeding or she is succeeding like that over there doing that. But what I realized that, and I'm doing a talk on this too later this month, hopefully, God willing, my niche is just that, mine, right? It can't be somebody else's. It can't be what worked for them. It's got to be what's working for you at your speed, with your blood type, with your height, with your weight, with your educational experience, because each one of these things that are good, the things that are going to work for you are designed specifically for you. weight, height, everything, blood type, the whole nine. But you got to realize that it's going to come internally. So when you make a move, your internal compass is going to tell you which way to go, not which way everybody else goes, not which way everybody else is suggesting that you go, but what your internal compass is going to tell you which way to go. And you're not going to need to run that by anybody but God. That's it. Because a lot of times we run it by the people and they put their 2 cents in, and you already had enough money. You didn't need the additional 2 cents. You had enough. So going to them, getting advice sometimes can throw you off, can throw off what you're doing, can throw off the direction you're going, can throw off the intensity of the direction that you're headed, right? Can throw off your schedule, how often you do something, can make you forget, can bring up old things, so sometimes you got to just my best judgment is my judgment. What motivates me is what I like is what I like. I don't care what they like. I don't care what if they don't like what I like. The thing I see people getting really, really rich on is staying within their niche. They figured out what worked for them, and then everybody else caught on. Everybody else caught on. They figured out what worked for them. Be you, dog. Tell my son that all the time. See all these kids doing all the same things. I'm like, man, dude, stay different, homie. Please do. Don't be I can find one of you in every crowd. There's a whole bunch of yous. Nah, he stands out, right? You stand out because you're listening to your own music. You're walking to the beat of your own drum. You're motivated because you know why, not because they know why. There's a difference. When you know why you're doing something, you know why, right? People, oh man, you gonna do the restaurant and a PhD? I know why I'm doing the PhD. It doesn't matter whether you know. Doesn't matter. People, oh man, the restaurant, that's what you think. What I'm saying internally is, man, I'm glad it's taking this long so I can get my shit together. Low key, so I can figure some other things out. Because if it happened when you suggested or when everybody suggested that it happened, I'd be nuts. So you got to be comfortable with the answers that you get from yourself. Because when you pray and you meditate, go internal and just ask for one, clean your head out, right? I've been meditating the last few days. So kudos. My mom been talking all that meditation for a long time. What's going on, Tanisha? She's been talking that meditation for a long time. So I've been practicing that meditation in the morning, man. Just and I do it on breaths now. I don't do it on time. I do it on how many breaths I want. And that helps me focus because if I focus on counting my breaths, then I focus. So it helps me kind of empty out my head, start my day off. Then I write in my journal, set my intention, and I get cracking immediately, right? Whatever it is that you said you were getting ready to do, get cracking. And this is my motivation, not to look for hand claps from everywhere else, because sometimes those hand claps are going to dry up. Sometimes the lights are going to go off. Sometimes there's going to be nobody in the audience. And what's going to motivate you to want to go up there and perform, not just perform as if there was millions of people out there. It's got to be something internal. It can't be because everybody showed up. It can't be because everybody thought it was a good idea. It can't be because everybody's stroking your ego. It's got to be internal. This is why I want to do it, because this is what makes me tick, right? I've always wanted to be an educator and write books, right? God is getting me prepared. He's teaching me how to speak every day. I'm doing this, and I do my classes online. So I'll be speaking for the next, when I start at 4:30, I'll be speaking till about 8 o'clock, constantly, just constantly talking. And that's what I asked for. But that's my motivation. You're not making any money. Well, look, this is a long-term play, right? So I got planned for doing these other things, but again, why do I need to make you feel comfortable? That's what we get so caught up in making other people feel comfortable that we lose our intention. The hell are we doing? Why are we even doing it? It's got to be something internal, intrinsic. A lot of people do. You get the people who need that. Well, that extrinsic external validation, it's almost like dope. You constantly need it. Once you don't, you're like, man, I ain't even tripping. My car is cool. I don't need to flex. I don't need people to, damn, you doing all right, D? You can think what you want. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because at the end of the day, and you hear this, it sound cliche. At the end of the day, I know how, and that's so true. I know what my refrigerator look like and my freezer look like. Right? I know where I'm chilling. I know where my man can. You know what I'm saying? I don't need that. I'm cool. And I'm not saying whether it's full or empty. I just know what it looks like. I don't need to flex anymore. I really don't, man. It's not even like that, because I know what that gets you. And I know that everything gets old. So a flexing now, 20 years from now, is not a flex. So I move away from it. I don't even flex on the academic shit no more. I'm like, man, I'm struggling with basic math. Make everybody feel comfortable, because I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, I ain't trying to put myself into a higher class or category. It's not important to me. Not anymore. What matters to me, I went and found my old juvenile hall stuff, read through it. It's impressive to me. Forgot what I did. You know what I'm saying? And homie, you know what I'm saying? But why'd I do that? Wasn't the pay involved? Wasn't nothing. It was because that's what I wanted to do. That's what I said I was going to do. Me and God had an agreement, and I stuck to the script. That's what that produced, right? That's what that was all about. So you got to figure out what's important to you. What did you and God agree on? What did you and God agree on? Because that should be your motivation internally. Man, I don't care what anybody think. I'm about to make green chili dogs. And I believe in it. And you can't make green chili dogs. Yes, I can. Watch me. I might fail, and it might lead me to purple chili dogs. Right? That's cool too. You know what I mean? And my purple chili dogs might be a failure that leads me to red chili dogs. That leads me to green hamburgers. That leads me to, and who knows where it's going to take you to. Right? Who knows where it's going to take you to? But most success stories, you hear about these navigations, right? They just believed in something and rock with it until it didn't, till another door opened and allowed them to kind of do a pivot to the left, and then they made another pivot. Next thing you know, they was two businesses up and off and doing something else. But because they believe in themselves and they didn't have to explain their moves. Don't be explaining moves to cats, especially cats who can't advise you and such. You're not talking to entrepreneurs who've done it, who flipped franchises. Talk to the homie about it. They limited, and I'm not hating on them. Don't get me wrong. But what they might do is hate on you on a low, because sometimes what happens is it's too much for them, especially you. You know what I'm saying? The one, not you, homie. You can't do it. Of course I can. And you got to have that motivation inside, man. I'm a different cat. I was different when you met me. You just put me in the class that you thought I could be in. I just hadn't realized my potential yet. After I met you, I realized my potential. So I don't have to talk about it anymore, right? I just go ahead and do it. And a lot of times, when you go back and look at your goals, and hopefully everybody has them, hopefully, one of my suggestions, but I'm really not pushing that on you guys. If you feel like it works for you, so be it. If you feel like meditation works for you, so be it. About to pick up my yoga mat again. Just letting you guys know that whatever works for you, there's so many options in the world that you can just find the thing that works for you perfectly. Right? Because what I'm starting to realize, just based on research and everything, is the most important thing in success is how you feel. Straight up. Not on no false stuff, but how you really feel, how you feel about life, how you feeling day to day, right? If you feel like life's a struggle, it's going to be whatever it is you want, right? Told my son that the other day. Dad, I'm always thinking something's going to go bad. I said, well, yeah, universe is waiting for you to call him. And it is, right? It really is. So you have to figure out what because if you start to do what other people say, and you start to cater to what their expectations are, you're going to be nuts. You're going to be nuts, and you're going to lose yourself. You're going to lose yourself, and then you're going to lose your intention in what you set out to do. It gets ugly. The road is long. Oh my God, this road is long. It is long. And there's a lot of different things that you're going to do in the process. You're going to work a lot of different jobs. You're going to work, you're going to do so many different, if you choose to go on this journey. Now, everybody doesn't want to go on this journey. Some people are comfortable in the positions that they're in. This is one of the things where, like, man, people, there's a boat ride that comes up, right? And it's like, man, hey, man, this is going to be the ride of your life, man, but you can't stay here. You can't stay here. You're like, man, what? Yeah, you got to give up all this old stuff, dog. You got the old car, all that stuff, everything. Yeah, you got to. And then, like, man, and nobody really wants to do it. And they're like, you know what? You got another boat, one that's going like halfway, not the full ride. I just want to take, kind of see if I'm ready for it. And yeah, we do that, right? We hold on to a job or we'll do something else to try to say, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to dip my toe all the way in it. But you got to figure out what your motivation is, why you even want to do it in the first place. Why do you want to open a store? Why do you want to get that degree? Right? Is it to prove something to somebody? Is it to prevent something? Right? There's two types of motivation. There's preventive motivation, where I'm trying to prevent myself from gaining weight, or prevent myself from being broke, or prevent myself from, right, not having all these things. Or there's pro, right, motivation, where you're doing things from the intention that you want to succeed, right? I read books, therefore I want to expand my vocabulary. So that's a positive type motivation, or pro motivation, right? I do math every night in order to build my math skills. From one, it can help me with testing, and it can also help my kids as well when they get to that point. Right? There's different types of motivation. I exercise every day to prevent myself from getting overweight, prevent heart disease, all these other things that could potentially come my direction. So you have to figure that out. What is my motivation? Where, and why not me? Why can't I validate me? Why can't I've been validating myself for my entire life? Have I? That's a really good question, right? Because in the beginning, we talked about how our parents, we look for validation from our parents. So have we been validating ourselves? Or is this going to be a new discovery? Because it was a new discovery for me, period. I had not been validating. I've been looking for validation from my brother. I used to call him all the time, man. Let's check this idea out. I call him, hey, man, look at that. Hey, man, I'm doing that. Just looking for validation from him because he was my older brother. He was, smarter than, or at least I thought he was at that time. You know what I mean? He was more successful. I was like, and I'm looking for, and I call my, my mom. And you call you looking for somebody to say, yeah, you that guy. You him. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. And if it does happen, you have to be careful. You have to ask yourself, why are they telling me I'm him? Right? Because external validation oftentimes can be misleading, right? There's a book called Robert Greene. Pick any one of his books, right? The 33 Laws of Suggestion or Seduction, and all these different things that talk about that, how to stroke someone's ego in order to manipulate them. So there's people that read these books that understand that I can try to validate, oh, you the man. Right. I told you guys about that story. I think I don't forget what book it was in, but where there was a politician who believed these girls that told him he could sing, and he quit politics and became a singer, and he was terrible. But that's what external validation can get you. It can mislead you into thinking that you're something else that you're not. Right. And you don't know why they're trying to why are you picking me to tell me? Right. And a lot of times people can read you. They know you're looking for it. They could tell you're hungry for it when you're constantly trying to tell people what you're up to. So they're like, okay, by us ignoring him, it's going to make him feel what you can't let people manipulate you. So if they know that you're always seeking validation, they won't give you some just to manipulate you, to make you feel like crap. So stop seeking it. That's what I told my son. I don't ask to play quarterback no more. Because the thing that they think you really want, they're going to dangle in front of your face and not give it to you. So the way you work on that is you say, you know what? No, I'm cool. I don't need your Validation. I have my own. Mine works just fine. I know who I am. I know what I want in life, and I'm going to get it. And I'm going to take every step in the right direction in order to achieve it. No cut. That's the game. Internal validation. You have to do it yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to give you the idea. God will give you the grace. God will give you the tools to succeed. Trust me on that. They'll come. You're going to have to work your ass off. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot that comes with that. But you also have to have the mentality to where you attract these things as well. So they will come in your life, but you got to attract them. And attraction is a whole nother level. Speaking of which, I'll show you our book for this evening. It is, I'm still reading again, Money and the Law of Attraction. I've been burning that out lately. But I am looking for a good book, man. So if you do have some recommendations, I do have one credit available. So if you do have a good book, I was reading The Way of the Superior Man, but it's cool. It's got a lot to do with um I would say, from what I've seen, a lot to do with just sexual control and some things that may not necessarily be of interest. So I'm reading Money and the Law of Attraction still. If you have book suggestions, please put it in the comments. I want us to get cracking on these books, man. The more we read, or the more I read, the better I'm going to be. So I want you guys to help me become a better reader, right? If I could read really good books, books that help me, not only vocabulary. So one of the things I'm changing is moving away from just constantly read nonfiction. I actually want to read fiction, but I want to read fiction that stretches my imagination and also stretches my vocabulary. So if you have book recommendations, please make sure you send them to me. Make sure you guys check in next week. We will be rocking this summer every Tuesday, I believe at this time, 4:30. So make sure you tap in. All right. That will conclude the weekly tap in for this week. Thank you for joining. Make sure you understand that motivation comes from inside. That's God's voice talking to you. Validation comes from you. You and God know what you're up to. Doesn't matter if these motherfuckers get it or not. I'm out.